Where does the healing begin?
Well, I think maybe we can begin with the deprived pattern. And I think the essence of the problem is a social problem. We have to look for a solution to a problem of not really been given sufficient authentic love in a social relationship. So a person who suffered from the deprived type of depression really has to look for a person who has a good character, is emotionally stable, is leading a type of life that is full, and can really be a good model of what the full life is really all about. And I think if a person who has suffered this kind of emotional deprivation hooks up with that person, he can actually begin to personally receive the strength that he needs to really discover his uniqueness, to find out how he's special, what's special about him, how God gave him certain gifts, how God created him. And I think it's best done in the context of a very psychologically warm and strengthening relationship. So that's what he should look for.
So some counselors would be more qualified or have some unique characteristics. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would say so. And I think perhaps maybe it depends on the level of severity of the deprivation pattern. I think maybe clergy, religious coaches, or even teachers could be good models of this social relationship, maybe for the mild cases. But I think maybe for moderate to serious cases, we'd really be talking about a professional counselor who can deal with the real wounding and hurting, which really needs repair. And I think maybe for the serious cases, we'd be looking perhaps if the deprived person is suffering from so much despair, so much giving up and hopelessness, perhaps psychiatric medication, perhaps in worst case scenario, when a person is suicidal, even inpatient care, inpatient hospitalization perhaps, especially if there's a danger to the person's life and he feels that life is not worth living and he might think of killing himself.
So, okay, so that's with the deprived pattern.
Yes.
Now with the submerged pattern, where would the healing begin with that?
I think with the healing of the submerged pattern, since we're talking about anger that has been buried alive for so long, the causes are important in leading the approach to care. If, for example, what originally caused the anger to be buried was fear, then the person needs to actually make anger an ally rather than something to be afraid of, so that the emotion itself needs to be really approached as just simply a natural response when one is offended. And anger really shouldn't be feared. It actually should be felt. It should be experienced. Now, there are also some people, because they like to pretend that they're not hurt, will actually need maybe an approach which enables them to accept their vulnerability to offend, so that they won't believe that it's a wimpy thing to do to actually feel that they've been hurt and actually feel the intense anger that really is the natural result of being offended. So we're really talking about comfort with the emotions.
So the submerged person should become more comfortable with their feelings because
That's
they've submerged them. I guess that's why you call it submerged.
Exactly, right, rather than respond to them naturally. It's something unnatural, it's an unnatural phenomenon.
Okay, and now the dark pattern, where would a person seek healing for that?
All right, I think the dark pattern, maybe we can take it in two pieces. I think if we have a person who really is unforgiving because someone has offended him, and he's just really caught up in obsessing about how much he's been hurt and how much the person who's offended him needs to be punished, and is really caught up in this feeling of how can I get even, then what we're really talking about is he needs to admit the fact that he's not being charitable, that the one thing that the other person needs is restoration, and at the beginning of that is his admission that he's being unmerciful, that he's being judgmental, that he's actually beginning to take on some of the qualities of the person who's offended him. So that's a long-range process where he has to kind of soften his heart instead of being hard-hearted and become more merciful and actually look for the best qualities to really emerge in the other person. Now, there's also another type of dark pattern where a person is readily aware, for example, that he's committed adultery, and he knows that he has to respond to the guilty conscience, to the pangs, and basically get to confess them, admit that they're wrong, and receive forgiveness. And of course, clergymen or religious really could be the important part of the process for healing.
Okay, with the biological pattern, where would where would someone seek where would someone seek remedy for that?
Yes, I think when we're talking about biochemical origins of depression, certainly a medical doctor would be in order, and of course a medical doctor would look to see if there are any kind of medications, prescriptions that can be given to help maybe balance the biochemistry. And in some cases, nutritional dietary supplements can be of help.
Okay. What about the biological that's not just like a chemical imbalance? What about someone who's had, say a car accident victim who actually had, their brain,
The cells may be damaged?
brain cell damage. Now, where would someone like that? Is there hope for someone like that? For healing?
Well, certainly, I think this is where faith and prayer would really come in order, because certainly, it might be God's will for the person to actually, in prayer, receive an eventual healing from praying and asking God to heal. But even if it's not God's will that the person is healed from the actual causes of the depression, where the brain injury is actually causal to depression, he simply can receive help from even a professional counselor. A faith-based, religious-oriented counselor can help him adjust to the suffering, which is certainly tremendous and a handicap for his life.